Till then in the 1800s, Americans drank, on average, 90 bottles of whiskey per year, or 1.7 bottles per week. This was because at the time, whiskey was sold at 25 cents a gallon, making it cheaper than wine, beer, tea, coffee, and even milk. I watched the documentary on Prohibition on Netflix, and they spend a lot of time explaining just how much Americans drank right before the movement, talking about how even young teenagers drank enormous amounts of booze. It was the only thing to do for a lot of people. https://mobile, twitter.com/usvsplastic. If my math is right, which is unlikely, and the inflation calculator I used isn't wrong, that's like getting 2 handles of whiskey for $4. I'm foing MTPSRT. I haven't done the math with gin during lockdown, but I reckon I'm on the higher end of the spectrum in 2020. Whiskey was so important back in the early days of the US that people rebelled when it was taxed. https://en. M. Wikipedia. org/wiki/whiskey_rebellion. Reading that makes me thirsty. For water. The dry mouth from a whiskey hangover is legendary. When I visited Czech with my husband, that's his home country, he told me that his friends and family will pay for meals at restaurants and don't pick expensive stuff, not that I ever would. Beer was much cheaper than soda. I only drank beer. I do not remember most of my visit to Czech. I heard it's a lovely country. As agricultural societies transition to industrialized one, they end up with gluts of alcohol on their market, as there are an overabundance of farmers all producing grain with higher outputs thanks to tech advances, and grain can most easily be stored and transported if you convert it to booze. It's how you get the stereotypes of the whiskey-soaked Westerner or vodka-swilling Russian at the turn of the century. Mark Twain wrote in Old Times on the Mississippi that when he was growing up in Hannibal, at the general store, a child making a purchase would get a free handful of sugar, an adult, male, would get a free ladle of whiskey. So it was very, very cheap, and people were very, very drunk, cheaper than tea, coffee, and milk. Damn, breakfast just got a whole lot cooler. I will drink more than 90 bottles of whiskey this year. Definitely breaking my old record by a lot. A lot. Millennials are killing the whiskey industry, you say. Eastern European nation Belarus, which currently has the highest per capita alcohol consumption in the world at 17.5 liters of ethanol per year, per capita, is only consuming 66% of what Americans were consuming in the 1800s. Holy shit. We were drunker than Eastern Europe by a large margin. Bottle as in 750 ml? 1 liter? 1.75 ml? A juice box. Anyone know what the average alcohol percentage was back then? That's not the only reason. Life sucks. Have some whiskey. 3 kids died. Have some whiskey. Wife won't put out because you gave her syphilis. Have some whiskey. Coal mine you work in collapsed and now you don't have a job? Have some whiskey. Whiskey solves problems. What do you mean? And even milk. Prior to refrigeration and milking machines and such, I can't imagine milk being even close to as cheap as something you can make in bulk and just leave in a bottle for as many years as you want. A lot of PPL probably drank at least one a day. I'm curious as to if this average is similar to how it is today, being that the top 10% of drinkers consume like 90% of the alcohol. As my grandma told me, people back then used to be a lot more drunk, like from morning to night every day for decades. They still managed to farm, somehow. Man. Up till 2 years ago, my buddy and I were putting those numbers up, and sometimes more. So glad I got past that, and can actually remember my day-to-day life now. I wonder what it was like when everyone was doing that. Who needs those other beverages when you can get even more drunk and for cheaper? Sounds like a win-win to me. Article doesn't mention the bottle size. What are we talking here? Nips. 5th. Handle. Dale Earnhardt commemorative jug. Size matters in this case. I'm pretty sure that it was more the fact that whiskey got you fucked up than anything to do with the price. Sorry honey, I know you said milk and eggs, but the whiskey was just so much cheaper and I know how much that matters to you. We can still have it for breakfast though. That's odd because whiskey is made from fermented grain mash which is almost beer. So you have to make beer first and then distill it into whiskey. And everyone lived to the ripe old age of 50. That's because back then, before the government taxed the fuck out of everything, alcohol was cheap. I lived in a country recently that had zero tax on alcohol. Even after the seller took their profit, in 2015, 1 liter of Jack Daniels, imported to SE Asia from USA sold for $14 USD. Not a fifth. 1 liter, 750 ml vs 1000 ml. A pack of Marlboro's Lights was $1 when I arrived in country in 2013 and $1.25 when I left 4 years later. Alcohol facts. Whiskey was very cheap and Americans were also urbanizing at the time, marking for the first time in American history that many common families were separated by distance, that is, kids are moving off the farms and getting jobs in the city. Without the watchful eye of families in the city, poverty due to too many people urbanizing too quickly for the job market, and whiskey being so damn cheap, alcoholism became a huge problem in the United States. What hero could come and address this while the elites believed the moral authority of America's democracy was swayed by drunk idiots? The YMCA. Yep. The YMCA was founded in this era to address all of the above issues by giving young men to a place to hang out, even crash if need be, without the evils of alcohol or loose women. A similar development for the TIL happened in England around the same time, except gin was much cheaper because they didn't have the wheat market US had. That is why, to this day, many pubs in London have gin distilleries in their basements. That easy to make and distribute, for any time asterisk. Gin and tonic, nice big ice cubes, 1/3 gin, 2/3 tonic, squeeze of lime, garnish with lime slice. I like Tanqueray or Aviation for this. For a summer afternoon asterisk. Tom Collins, 1 measure gin, 2 measures soda water, half a lemon juice, 1 measure of sugar syrup, or a tablespoon of sugar dissolved in it, serve over ice with a lemon slice garnish. This is better if you shake the ingredients except the soda water in a cocktail shaker. Tastes like a grown-up beautiful fresh lemonade. You want an Old Tom gin for this one. For before dinner asterisk. Martini, 3 measures of gin, 1 teaspoon of vermouth. Shake hard with ice and serve in a chilled glass with a thin lemon peel garnish. For after dinner asterisk. Negroni, I don't like Negronis, someone else can fill you in on this one. Edit, everyone is perfectly right to say that martinis should be stirred not shaken. No wonder mine are always super cold but cloudy. Whiskey, laudanum, saw. I'd be dead if I drank that much. I picked the wrong century to be born as someone who developed into semi-functional alcoholic. Now on wagon. Back then it would have been almost a civic duty. 7 bottles a week are rookie numbers. LOL, I took this as, wow, maybe I would not have been considered a degenerate drunk back then. Then I remembered I drank 7 bottles a day not a week. Wasn't it also partly because alcohol was safer to drink than water? Or am I thinking of another period of history where people drank tons of alcohol? Ah, yes. Back when the boys were men, and the men were all dead from cirrhosis. I watched that Prohibition documentary on Netflix. I don't agree with Prohibition, but you can see why it happened. People had a serious problem, and our first president was the largest whiskey maker in the USA. One of his first acts as president was to form and send the military to squash the whiskey rebellion.